Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911, Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and we are back with another conversation with an innovator. But first, let me just set the stage here. Recycling in the United States, I think we all know, is unnecessarily difficult. Plastic in particular is hard to sort because of the myriad forms that it takes. It's often unlabeled, which means you can't identify what kind of plastic you have in your hand when you want to recycle it. And finding drop-off locations that accept the material you have can be a matter of luck based on whether or not your city does or doesn't accept something like, for instance, plastic film. With plastic film, you have few or no options today, but that may be changing. We're talking with David New, who is the founder of Obaggo, a countertop appliance that turns a variety of plastics into recyclable pucks of plastic that don't jam recycling center equipment. Obaggo can compress plastic bags and film, including number 2 and number 4 plastic shopping bags, those Amazon recyclable plastic bubble wrappers that you get on your front porch, food wrapping, the cereal bags that are in the boxes of your favorite breakfast, and other things. It really seems to us, and particularly as I read about this, as a catch-all solution for a problem that we all face. Now, the Obaggo appliance is currently available through Indiegogo, which means it's a crowdfunding startup, and it's priced at $229. That doesn't mean that you necessarily will get the product, but I think David is working hard to make this happen. Obaggo offers a potentially groundbreaking change in the recycling of plastic, and it's good to have David New here to explain. You can find out more at www.obaggo, that's OBAGGO.com. Welcome to the show, David. How are you today?
I'm great, Mitch. Thanks so much. It's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. First off, tell us what the Obaggo appliance does and why this puck is easier to recycle than loose plastic film.
Sure. So thanks so much for setting the stage. Plastic recycling is really difficult. We have so much plastic bags and packaging film coming into our houses now. The estimate is 380 billion pieces of plastic bags and film each year. And it's the fastest growing type of packaging. And there are very few recycling solutions. Obaggo's solution is to create a kitchen appliance that you can take your plastic bags and packaging film, the recyclable kind, and put them in the device, push a button, and then in about 15 minutes, they've been thermoformed into a puck. Now, the reason why this is important is because this puck is now no longer a contaminant to the recycling stream. So your recycler who picks up your curbside bin and then sorts all the recycled items and gets them to recyclers for processing can now handle this object automatically, no labor, and it's economical.
And one of the reasons it's important that the puck is compact like this is that it doesn't jam the equipment, which leads to injuries when people try to unjam the equipment. So it's a good thing for the recycling worker in addition to just solving a problem for all of us. How big is the Obaggo appliance? And I also have to ask, does it represent a potential source of odors if, for instance, you put unwashed meat wrapping in it?
Okay, so first, it's very compact. We designed it to fit, tuck away in the back of your kitchen countertop. It's about 7 inches by 7 inches square, and then about 11 inches tall.
Okay.
It doesn't represent a significant source of odors per se. However, you definitely need to use only recyclable plastic packaging. And when I say recyclable packaging, it needs to be clean, dry, and one of the recyclable types that you'll find listed either on our website or at plasticfilmrecycling.org or any of the plastic films that you can take back to the retail store system. Now, generally, these plastics, they need to be clean and dry. And typically, plastic that's been in contact with meat and it's contaminated with fat, proteins, and maybe fish are not recyclable. Those
Okay.
contaminants will create an unrecyclable product for people who want to make products out of it. So just think about if you were to recycle a jar of spaghetti sauce or a jar of peanut butter.
Hmm.
Spaghetti sauce and peanut butter really create a contaminated recyclable commodity, and no recycler wants to have dirty products. So please wash the spaghetti sauce off your jars, your peanut butter out of your jar. And if you have a plastic bag, it's just as washable as anything else. You could
One of the
scrub it with
reasons,
a sponge. Yeah.
yeah. So one of the reasons I asked about the odor, for instance, is you have a charcoal filter on it, so that you do have a way of cleaning the air. But to your point about identifying those plastics, if you don't see a plastic number on something, should it go in Obaggo?
The rule of thumb always in recycling is when in doubt, throw it out. Okay. But we are going to do the best job that we can to educate our users as to what is and isn't recyclable. There are dozens and dozens of products that you get every day that are recyclable. There are a lot that aren't. And we are also trying to act as a catalyst towards improved labeling and improved sustainable packaging. And the trends are all improving in these areas. There's how to recycle labels. Mm-hmm. There are other labels that manufacturers are putting on their product specific to their business. Like Dow has recycle ready plastic film that you might find on, let's say, Bare Naked granola. Amcor has a product called a recyclable film that you might find on Nature Valley granola bars, and it might have a slightly different label on it, but the trend is towards improved labeling and more recyclable films. So we'll do our best to educate people and also help encourage consumer packaged goods companies to improve their labeling.
So if you've done a good job of sorting this, it should be recyclable. Would it be recyclable in a curbside recycling bin as well as a drop-off location?
So the goal of our business is to get them conveniently recycled curbside. Mm-hmm. We have a little bit of a chicken or egg problem, we call it. It's hard to get acceptance in a curbside system when you don't exist.
Yes.
But we're trying. And we're making progress. We actually already have a couple MRFs who have said, we can take your pucks on day one, not a problem for us. And often these may be MRFs, material recovery facilities, that have manual sorting currently. Maybe they already accept loose bags and they could easily sort out the pucks. So we're going to have a few MRFs on day one. We also have retail store drop-off program options, and we're working on other options to make it convenient to recycle these.
So one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about since I first saw Obaggo is I've always understood that different types of plastic were forms of contamination too, from the perspective of recycling each individual type of plastic. So could a number 2 and number 4 plastic item be recycled at the same time to produce a usable plastic resin?
Sure. And here, I don't want to get too far down into the weeds of the technical aspect of plastic film recycling. But number 2 plastic is high density polyethylene. Mm-hmm. Number 4 plastic is low density polyethylene. So the operative word there is polyethylene.
Yes, it is.
And in fact, polyethylenes are not really just a number 2 or a number 4, but they're a whole spectrum of densities. And manufacturers choose a density of polyethylene based on their application. There are other polyethylenes that aren't even numbered. There's one called linear low density polyethylene, which is usually used for pallet wrap because it's very stretchy in one particular direction and it's very strong. Is medium density polyethylene, but the main thing to understand is that all polyethylenes films can be recycled together. Oftentimes, the recycling process uses chemical additives that help them blend together. So they're called compatibilizers and stabilizers. And they help all the different densities blend together into one homogeneous ooze, which then becomes its own type of a plastic with its own property.
Right.
And another interesting thing about it is it actually not just for polyethylenes, but polyolefins, which is the family of polymers, which includes polypropylene. So if you make a mistake and you actually include a polypropylene film, which is sometimes number 5,
right,
the process can handle up to 15% of this type of material also. So you don't have to worry too much. If you're doing your best, don't worry, you're not going to just ruin the whole system by making a mistake. But it's important to know that the technology for recovering and recycling plastic film is improving every year. And
necessarily so, since we're using so much more of it. Now, you're at the prototype stage. When will Obaggo be commercially available?
So right now we are crowdfunding the first production run of Obaggo. We expect to ship in about 12 months. Normally, the process of bringing a hardware item like this to market is about, it's analogous to making a baby. It takes about 9 months. But given the current environment of supply chain disruptions, we're a little bit more comfortable quoting 12 months.
Okay. Now, what motivated you? Obviously, you've been thinking about plastic for a long time. I understand your father was an early recycling entrepreneur. How long have you been thinking about the challenge of recycling plastic, and when did Obaggo come to you?
Yeah, so I did grow up in a recycling household. My dad found the Moncler Organizations for Conservation back in the late 60s and helped found one of the first recycling programs in the country in my hometown. And I grew up working on Saturdays, unloading cars and sorting recyclables into different bins. And so I've always been kind of sensitized to recycling. And I've always been a very good recycler as an adult at home, but I've always had a problem with plastic bags and getting them back to the store and doing the right thing. For some reason, I'd always find myself at the store and remember I left them at home, or I'd be at the checkout and I'd remember I left them in the trunk. And I don't know why, but it was just, I felt really bad because, I'm supposed to be good at this. And then I realized that a lot of people have the same problem. It's just, they're good recyclers. They want to recycle and they can do it in the comfort and convenience of their home, but taking stuff other places just doesn't fit their habits and the lifestyle. So I realized, maybe this is something that is a problem that I could solve. And I also have a background in supply chain logistics, is what I've done for a living for the last 30 years. And so I started thinking, why do we have this one supply chain for recycling glass and metal and aluminum and paper and magazines and cardboard, and it works for everything else except plastic bags? Why is that? Could it be something as simple as just the shape? And turns out that it sort of is. And so I decided, well, what if we just change the shape? Could that be a solution? So I've been working on this project I got the idea maybe 10 years ago, but I've really been pushing it forward for about the last 5 years. And we're looking forward to being at market very soon.
So another element of what you promise a customer is that you'll have an app that just shows where drop-off locations are available, and it'll also let a user create a drop-off location, which raises the question for me: is there money in collecting pucks and then being the aggregator of all that supply to send to a recycling facility?
Sure. So Not a lot of money in plastic bag recycling right now, but yes, we are working on developing a phone app, a map-based phone app that will help connect people who have plastic with people who want plastic. Now, you probably wouldn't believe there are a lot of companies out there that want your plastic bags. I get contacted every week by companies around the country.
Yeah, we do too.
They're manufacturers. They're something called advanced recyclers who have this insatiable need to take polyolefins, your polyethylenes and polypropylenes, and they want to convert them back into polymers for recycling. And so the idea of this phone app where you can create a drop-off location. Now that drop-off location might be you notice that your local store is not on our map. So you just can add that location.
Okay.
Because sure. if you go to the plasticfilmrecycling.org site, they'll be the first to admit that they don't actually know all the stores that have their own drop-off locations. And so we'll get users to help identify them. But also some of these manufacturers that want the material can create their own drop-off locations. So if you have a business and you need plastic film to make park benches or irrigation pipe or railroad ties, you can set up some drop-off locations in your area and you can get people to
That's interesting. So you could create a sort of a hyper-local circular plastic stream.
We're just trying to connect people who have it with people who want it. It's just a supply and demand thing. And there are ideas to make it a rewards-based application. So you could earn rewards for dropping off material. It's both an interim solution until you can just recycle it in the convenience of your curbside bin, but it's also a future solution, because why not just try to get it straight from the source to the destination? Why not just bypass the middleman?
Now, one of the things you promised to do in the Boston area where you're headquartered is to collect this. This is a quote from the site. Obaggo guarantees to recycle the material to its highest and best use. How are you going to collect pucks outside of the immediate region in Boston? How would you create a network of Obaggo, a national network of Obaggo collectors so that you can follow through on that promise?
Yes, certainly. We don't promise to pay for shipping everything back to us. That's it. There's economics involved in our promise. But
and it's not a great idea to ship everything all over the country. It's
exactly. I mean, our main goal is to get it, like I said, from people who have it to people who need it. However, there are a lot of skeptics that material actually gets recycled. They believe that, people are in the business of just greenwashing and they're going to get the material and then they're going to landfill it. But in actuality, we are trying to create a real circular economy for this material. And to the extent that our local logistics system can get the material back to us, we're trying to get all the towns in Massachusetts, for example, and in the New England area to collect this material. And we can do milk run pickups and bring it back to our warehouse efficiently and get it to recyclers. We're going to offer a lot of our early Obaggo users a free year of mail back program. They can ship it back to us. And we are going to have that reprocessed into something called post-consumer resin, and then have that post-consumer resin evaluated for what its best applications are. We'll find out what types of contaminants it contains and what products it's best used for, and make sure it gets used for those products. So that is our commitment to demonstrating that this is good material. It's a resource that's in your kitchen that people want, and we can make it back into good products.
So let me ask a kind of a broader question. And also, because you're a lifelong recycling family person, you've got this interesting solution to some of the plastic recycling challenges we face. How do you suggest, as you think about this, that we rethink recycling in the United States? Where would you take the recycling system if you were put in charge today?
Well, if I was in charge, I'd find it to be a very challenging problem because, the United States is a big country and it's got very diverse recycling challenges. You've got urban areas with one recycling challenge. You've got rural areas with totally different recycling challenges. However, I do believe that some very simple mechanisms could totally transform recycling. For example, let me just throw this out there, like a landfill tax, a tax on solid waste.
Or for instance, what about, for instance, what was just taken out of the updated infrastructure bill, which was a 20-cent raw plastic per pound tax? Would something like that help? And I guess the broader question is, do you think that we need to do this at the national level, or is it something that can be distributed, private, and hyper local?
Yeah, so taxes always have both the intended and the unintended consequences. Sure. And you really need economists to evaluate these things to try to anticipate what's going to happen. What I like about a landfill tax or solid waste tax is that it encourages people to divert from the waste stream.
Sure. Okay. Good point.
If you had a significant tax on waste, you would see incredible efforts towards reducing, reusing, and recycling to avoid that waste. And those efforts would get creative, and you'd see progress in all directions. As far as taxing plastic, I think that it is important that the cost of virgin plastic should reflect its recovery cost as well. Some people call it extended producer responsibility. But you shouldn't be able to just make a product for a penny that somebody else is going to have to pay 10 cents to clean up later.
Right.
And so if you burden that product with that cleanup cost up front, it does make recycled material more competitive, and manufacturers might choose recycled resin over virgin resin because it's actually cheaper. So yeah, I think that all of those are great ideas and should be either implemented locally or implemented nationally. It's harder to do things like national carbon taxes and so forth, but we really need to get aggressive at the problem, solving the problem. We need an all of the above approach. We need to try everything, including densifying plastic bags in the household. And I think that if we try all these different things, we'll eventually solve at least a big piece of the problem.
Well, we certainly agree. I mean, we've been saying more ideas, less waste now for almost 30 years. So how can our listeners get involved? Where can they order an Obaggo and think about potentially becoming a drop-off location?
Sure. Well, first, I would encourage everybody, please subscribe on my website, obaggo.com, and we will keep you updated with all the plastic bag recycling news and, of course, the progress of our business. I would also ask everybody, please be mindful of your plastic bags and film in your kitchen. Look at it. Read the labeling if it has it. Find out whether it's recyclable or not, and get it to the store for recycling. If you're recycling at the retail store now, great. Don't buy an Obaggo. We're not trying to, sell product to people who already have a solution. We're trying to help the people like me who have this terrible problem and just have never seemed to be able to do it that way. And if you want to support this project, go to our website. You'll see a link to Indiegogo where you can pre-order a device that will help support our campaign. And then after we launch, if you want to take it to the next level and try to get a drop-off location in your town, definitely reach out to us, talk to the Department of Solid Waste in your town about this solution, and we'll work together to make sure that everybody in your town has a convenient place to drop off the Obaggo discs.
Well, I've been getting the newsletter, and it's been really useful, and it's kept me interested in this solution too. I think I'm a pretty good recycler, but plastic film is just a major headache. And it's great to see you thinking about this, and I will be looking at my Obaggo soon. So thank you very much, David, for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Mitch. It's been a real pleasure.
We've been talking with David New, who's the founder of Obaggo, and you can find out more about Obaggo at www.obaggo.com. That's Obaggo with 2 G's. And this is a really interesting one. We struggle with whether or not to talk about pre-release products because several times the products have not come to fruition. But David New and his small team have done a lot of work to convince us that this is a valid solution. And we encourage you to take a good close look at this. And if you have a plastic film recycling challenge, this may be a really interesting solution. I hope you'll take time to share this and other Earth 911 podcasts with your friends, families, strangers on the street, your neighbor's dog. They might get somebody to pay attention if they bark and talk about this podcast enough. So get this idea out there. Share Obaggo, share Earth 911 sustainability in your let's change this world, not just sit here and wait for it to happen. This is Earth 911. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. We're going to be back with another innovator interview soon. In fact, our next guest will be Paul Hawken, the author of Regeneration. We hope you'll be here to talk with him next week. So folks, take care of yourself. Take care of one another, and let's all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. We'll be back soon, and have a green day.